Joining us now to analyze the coverage, Molly Hemingway, senior editor at The Federalist and a Fox News contributor. In New York, Jedediah Bila, the co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend. And in Los Angeles, Leslie Marshall, radio talk show host and Fox News contributor. Molly, the media attacks on Amy Coney Barrett began days before she was named. I'll get to Newsweek in a moment. And some of this echoes Democratic attacks on her, criticism of her at her confirmation hearings 3 years ago. Do you believe at least some of these attacks amount to anti-Catholic bigotry? On that point, Leslie, law professor Jonathan Turley writing in The Hill that Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a proud Jew. She attended conferences on Jewish law, and nobody accused her of letting her faith dictate her legal opinion. So that would seem to suggest a media double standard, at least in some quarters, for Amy Coney Barrett.
Look, this country was founded on religious freedom. The people that came here 20 minutes from where I was born and grew up in Plymouth, Massachusetts, were fleeing religious oppression and attacks. That's wrong no matter what. However, if this was reversed, okay, if you had a Democratic president and they were putting forth somebody who was so outspoken and so pro-abortion and so liberal and progressive on this matter, there would be the same attacks, not on religion, but certainly the same attacks on views. You have to remember that Judge Barrett, prior to being a judge, when she was a teacher, she put herself out there again and again and again, talking about her views on abortion. She went further in saying that as a Catholic, a judge should recuse themselves on issues that conflict with their moral beliefs, such as capital punishment or abortion. That's concerning for many, and not just on the left, that a judge would say, look, if there's an issue like that, I got to recuse myself, especially if she's on a court that, by the way, will have a 6-3 conservative majority, which where I sit is a packed court.
Okay. Well, you know, Antonin Scalia had 9 children. I don't recall him being asked about how he could simultaneously be a Supreme Court justice. Leslie, I disagree with Jedediah just a little bit on this. I think she will be confirmed because Republicans have the votes, just as they have the votes to push ahead. But when we get into this question of what happened in 2016 versus now, why so little media attention to Joe Biden also changing his position 4 years ago? Obviously, he demanded a vote for Barack Obama's nominee, Merrick Garland, and now he says, let's hold off on voting. The next president, whoever wins the election, should decide, and yet that gets very little media attention.
Well, the fact that we're talking about it, I don't agree. I certainly saw it throughout the media. I think one of the reasons it gets a little attention is Joe Biden's not in the Senate and not voting. Wasn't then, isn't now. To Jedediah's point, if you have to follow the process, well, in 2016, they didn't follow the process. Senator Mitch McConnell's process, as he said, was to block everything that Barack Obama was going to put forth and try and do. And obviously, that included trying to get Merrick Garland on the court. With regard to packing the court, honestly, I'm a liberal, I'm a Democrat, but I would like a fair court, liberals and conservatives, and 6-3 is not, and I wouldn't want 6-3 liberal either. And so adding a couple of seats to make it 6-5, that might be good. It is within the confines of the Constitution. And Howie, I agree 100%. The Senate is going to confirm her because it's a majority Republican, and they said they were going to confirm her before we knew who she was. And lastly, as a feminist with 2 children and a puppy sleeping upstairs, I'm working like you are, Jedediah. I'm with you on that. And I do think it's wonderful as a woman who's adopted one of my children that she has 7 children, 2 of which she adopted from Haiti, and who are children of color, having an interracial family. I do respect that and like that a lot.
Very glad to hear you say that now. The latest media outrage started with an Atlantic piece by 3-time Pulitzer winner Bart Gellman charging that President Trump is actively plotting ways to keep himself in power after a disputed election. And the president fueled the controversy with these comments.
Will you commit to making sure that there is a peaceful transferal of power after the election?
Well, we're going to have to see what happens. You know that I've been complaining very strongly about the ballots, and the ballots are a disaster. Get rid of the ballots, and you'll have a very peaceful. There won't be a transfer, frankly. There'll be a continuation.
All right, Leslie. New York Times has a story saying Pentagon leaders are discussing how to avoid having the military drawn into any post-election chaos, and even raising the possibility of the president invoking the 1807 Insurrection Act and sending troops into the streets. All that seems like a pretty speculative story. It's all if this happens, and if this happens, what might the president or the Pentagon do?
I think that's our world right now, sadly, Howie, right? And the internet feeds into that. We speculate about everything. I mean, Molly was talking about the question, posed to the president. There are people out there on my side of the aisle speculating the president won't leave. And then when he answers the way he did, it kind of fuels the flames, if you will. And I think that taunting goes back and forth. Look, there have been people that have talked about the Insurrection Act. There have been people on both the left and the right that have talked about, cities burning if their candidate doesn't win. Sadly, we've become such a divided and vitriolic nation, even more so. And I think because many of us are stuck at home, and some people are angry that they have to social distance and wear a mask when we have a pandemic like this, high unemployment, and tempers flare. Sadly, we have to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. But to use our military when we have situations throughout the world, Afghanistan is just one of many examples. That's too much on their plate. And that's why those in the Pentagon, top leaders, have said they would step down if that becomes the case, because they have to do what they have to do as the military. And policing the American people after an election should not be one of those things.